You're based in New York, right?
Yeah, in Brooklyn.
Okay. Though it's been a tough year and some change. Everything okay with you personally? Like weathering the storm okay?
Yeah, I mean, I and my girlfriend and I, we had a baby in November, so I got a 3-month-old, 3.5-month-old now. So yeah, thanks. So that was it was like a weird year to go through that, for sure. And it was a pre-COVID baby, actually. We found out we were pregnant before lockdown and all that. And yeah, it was just, I couldn't go to any of the appointments or anything like that. I think initially when they first brought in lockdown, like they weren't allowing partners into the delivery, and luckily I could go to that. So it was a very interesting experience, but I've been loving it so far. I mean, it's certainly an adjustment, having a baby, then working from home, and but I don't mind it, structuring the day a little differently, where I'll do some work in the morning. I'll take off like 3-4 hours in the middle of the day and spend time with the baby, and then do some work in the afternoon, and then come back and do some more work like at 10 o'clock at night kind of thing. So
right,
it's a schedule adjustment, but I mean it works, and he's a great kid and he's healthy, so we're thankful there. And then all of our immediate family and even my family back in Australia, nobody got sick or anything, so we're thankful for that too.
Nice. So I see people are starting to come in. Michael, what's going on? Yama Agni 902, what's up? Bufo on the beat. As always, appreciate you being here. Hype Dinero tuning in from Facebook. So feel free to type in the chat. Let us know you're there, whether you're on Periscope or YouTube or Facebook. We'll get started in just a second. Obviously, going to have another great conversation. I'm looking forward to this one. Dan has actually been on our platform before, but I'm looking forward to hearing about all the updates, as well as introduce what he's doing to some of you guys that maybe didn't watch it the first time around. Shane, what's going on? King Swisser, what up? Mr. Smith, I see you. We'll get started in just a few seconds. Cool, and as always, we'll have questions at the end if you guys have any. So please save your questions until the end. The way we submit questions is just through the comments. So you'll be able to just ask your questions via comments. All right, well, let's jump into this. I remember, Dan, the first time you were on, I mispronounced your last name, but I don't remember how to say it, but I'm going to go with Dewar.
That's fine. That's close enough. Dewar is fine. Yeah.
Okay, because I know the first time I was like Dewar, and I know that was wrong.
Yeah, that's okay. That's fine. I get that, and it happens. Dewar is fine.
Okay, cool. So let's go ahead and start. Even though you were on here before and you talked about your past, can we just, because there's probably a lot of people that are going to be watching now that we have a partnership with BeatStars. Can we talk a little bit about your past? Maybe give us the quick version and just bring us up to speed on what Paperchain is.
Sure. I mean, Paperchain, the most simple is just instant payments for streaming media. So we connect into the APIs of, directly from Spotify, Apple, YouTube. We aggregate streaming data, and then we make it possible to get paid for that on a daily basis. That's at its core, and that's what we've been building for the last couple of years. Recently, we've made some product updates where now we can issue cards, and so now artists can get access to cards that are funded daily by the streaming revenues that they generate. So for artists, it's like immediate connection between revenue generation and then access to that revenue, which is something that hasn't been put into market. And so we've been partnering with some distribution companies to launch that into market. I think we had a first announcement a couple of weeks ago. And from there, it's just like distributor after distributor is now coming out saying like, yeah, we want to get this into the hands of our artists, which is really exciting to see, because for such a long time, it was like it was an uphill battle. I think it was just a battle of getting mindshare and getting people to the right position. And now that it's there and people are seeing what that looks like and what that enables for artists, it's all starting to open up now. So we're really excited about that. And again, it's just about, addressing the inequities that have happened in the streaming space over the past couple of years, and the way that streaming has changed consumption and distribution, and the way money just hasn't changed. So unfortunately, we can't do anything about streaming rates and how much is getting paid out. That's probably another problem for us to tackle. We can't do anything about that yet, but we can certainly do a lot about how fast you can get access to the money you're getting, that you're owed. And so that's where we are. And again, it's been a really good start to 2021. and we looked on as we looked to onboard a number of other distributors and artists as well.
So for the people that don't know, how long does it take typically to get paid from Spotify once your music is streamed?
The minimum, if you're a creator, at best, you're probably at 45, 60 days, so 2 months behind. So we're in February now. We probably get paid at the end of April. It's probably at best your best shot. Other times, depending on your deal, I mean, that's going through a distributor who typically, some of them are at a point where they can pay out much faster. Others are still paid out quarterly or 3 or 4 months behind. Maybe if you're on a label, you're still on 6 months plus 90, so you're getting paid once or twice a year. It can get as high as like 9 or even 12 months. So again, it's just like that data has been available, and these current infrastructure or operational structures that have been in place just haven't changed, and so it hasn't really impacted the ability for artists to get paid faster.
So is it just an infrastructure issue, or is anybody doing anything with that money in the interim before it gets into the hands of the artists?
I mean, it's a mixture of both, and it depends on who you talk to. You'll get either an honest answer or a not honest answer. On one side, it's operational challenges, and then also just the way pricing works in general. Spotify doesn't price. There's no set rate for pricing for streams. So that gets decided on a monthly basis based on for example, currently, like we're in February, you'll generate your streams in February around the 20th or 25th of towards the end of February. Spotify will issue a statement saying this is what your streams worth in February, and it's just based on a number of things like how they calculate stream rate pricing, because it is dynamic and fluctuates month to month. So depending on how many streams you generated, what the overall market share your streams were, whether they were ad supported, subscription supported, where which territories the revenue was generated in, all of these things factor, and that's why it fluctuates month to month. So as right off the bat, there's just no set pricing for streams. So that already puts you at least almost 30 days behind. And then it's just an operational challenge in that Spotify are also collecting ad revenue, they're collecting subscription revenue. So once they come up with the amounts, then they're collecting all their payments and then issuing those invoices down to all of the stakeholders, and mostly being distributors, record labels, and even aggregators like Merlin. And then on their side, once they receive the funds, it's typically a 15 to 30 day turnaround from there. Onto your second part of that question, yes, there are. I mean, some businesses have been able to thrive based on that flow. Right, because that money they have, they can then redeploy into investments, whether it's new acquisition or any sort of thing that can earn a good return for them, and they're able to make use of those funds. I think sometimes at the expense of getting that into the hands of the artist faster. So that's definitely part of the problem as well. Right.
So there's really there's no incentive to get you your money quick, essentially.
Well, some people would see it that way, but I disagree, obviously, is in that there's absolutely incentive, because the better you can serve as creators and artists, the better, the more they can focus on what they do best, which obviously means creating more art, which means putting out more music, making more videos, whatever, other content mediums they may be working on. The ability for them to focus on and do that. Obviously, if you're invested in making sure they can do that, then, that means that you have more catalog you can then put out onto Spotify. And the more catalog gives you more opportunity to grow fans and audiences, and the more you can do that, the more streams, which results in more revenue. So I think you're always incentivized at any of these layers is to make sure that your artists and your creators can keep on creating. And so I would definitely say there's incentive to do it. It's just in some cases it's an operational challenge, and do some people think it's not worth it, or do they want to protect this business they have? Because I think the more you empower creators, the more you get to this situation like we're starting to see now in the video space, where, if you look at what's happening on Twitch and other platforms like that have direct creator and platform relationships, I think those are really good and positive. And I think, on the music side of things, there's that concern that the more you empower creators, the more they'll look to have direct distribution opportunities with the platforms. I think that does impact the distribution layer and the record label layer. That does have some of them worried about their, the value that they can capture if that were to happen. So there's a bit of fear there, I think. But I think what's going to be best for creators is not just direct relationships, but again, just access to the money that they've earned, because it is their money.
Right. No, I agree. So if Spotify is saying that it takes a while to calculate payments, how come you guys are able to do it so quickly? I recognize it's an estimate, but what, how are you guys doing essentially?
I mean, we have, through the partnerships that we have access to large amounts of historical statement data through the rights holders that we've partnered with and are servicing. And then it's just about, investing time. And we spend a lot of time in building a model that allows us to predict that with a high degree of accuracy within 1 to 2% of the actual. So having, putting the time in to actually have that model have, over 12, 24 months, be able to track that, refine that to a point where it is so accurate. It took a long time to get there. And, on the other side of it, in terms of like, why Spotify, it's like they just have, they're a growing business and they are razor sharp focused on growing certain parts of the business. And if they're continually growing and there's other, there's not really resource to look into this sort of thing, then it's kind of like they can keep things moving without solving some of those issues. And that's where opportunities like us come forward, where we can start to take that data, model it, and then start to build a service that makes sense for creators. And that's what we've done with that opportunity.
Right. So I know we might have talked about this before, and I'm not well versed in the blockchain world, but from what I understand, there is or will be blockchain technology that can essentially do the same thing, if not something very similar. Does your platform leverage some kind of blockchain technology, or is it separate from?
No, it's incorporated on the back end. We actually see it as, we've been pretty creative in leveraging finance protocols on blockchain networks like Ethereum. So we've been able to use decentralized finance protocols as a means of sourcing capital, which means we didn't go to and because the way we operate is obviously we take this data, we price it, and then we pay it out on demand, but we have to have a way to pay that out on demand. And typically what you do is you go to an institutional like a bank or some other lender or private equity fund, and they will set up a line of credit for you, and they'll say, here's $20 million, and we're going to charge you 15% for you to hold it. And then so if you want to make money on that, you've got to charge customers 25% interest, and then it's just become so expensive, which is exactly how it operates now. What these technologies enable us to do is to build new financial products with different cost structures associated with that, different risk profiles. So when we go to actually source capital and give it back to our customers and pay that out to our customers, the cost is not 25% a year, it's 6% or 7%. So it's even cheaper than that. And so it becomes a point. It's for us, it's about creating capital that can exist or be offered at a price point where it doesn't feel like, I need to think about, how I get, am I advancing this month? Am I advancing next month? The capital is so cheap that you're getting paid and it just feels like payments for you. Like that's what blockchain technology has really opened up for us, is the ability to tap into these new financial networks. Tangential and adjacent to that has been, one of the things which I'm sure a lot of your listeners and viewers have been paying attention to is what's happening in the NFT market. And, part of that connects into what we do on the financial side, in that we're creating, these revenue streams are becoming NFTs that can be financed in finance networks. But then the other side of it is creating media markets or sales markets where you can issue, assets or songs are now being printed as NFTs and being monetized on these networks. And I think that's a really interesting and very powerful way to utilize new technology as well, in terms of tapping into new markets that didn't exist before. And I'd say for any artist who's considering it, the interesting thing in terms of being able to tokenize or utilize NFTs as a mechanism for distributing media is the whole point of this is interoperability. And so you can take that NFT and it can interoperate with any number of media markets or art markets or bidding markets or financial markets, whatever, but you own that. And then when you're selling that, your customers become part owners of that well, and you can participate in all these different types of markets, which is just like it's really a way that, the distribution of art just hasn't happened yet or hasn't been thought about yet. It's literally being built right now, and early movers and artists who are looking to explore that are really at the frontier of pushing a new way of distributing art. So I think it's something for artists worth exploring and diving into and looking at what's being put out now, how they can incorporate that into monetizing their asset and catalog, and also how they can use that to engage new audiences. Because again, I think it offers a lot of really new, unique fan experiences but then also opens up a lot of really interesting financial opportunities for artists as well in terms of tapping into new markets.
And is Paperchain getting involved in NFTs in any capacity?
Yeah, because at the core of our platform is a digital wallet infrastructure, and currently the way that's being used is these are wallets that you can deploy. We're depositing your streaming royalties into that on a daily basis, and you can access that through a card. So that's just like one way. But now that you have this wallet, there's other ways that you can there's other ways you can deploy these wallets that can make them super valuable and really useful for creators. One is that in these wallets, if your money is just sitting there, the benefit of digital currency wallets is, again, their ability to connect and interoperate with other markets. So it's very easy for the money that's sitting in your wallet to be deployed into Yearn or interest Yearn protocols or interest generating protocols that allow that money that just sits there to just start earning an interest for you, which you didn't really have access to. And in particular, you can earn you can earn interest that is much higher than what you get at the bank. So if it's like the bank's paying you 0.1% or maybe even less, in these sorts of markets you can get 2, 3, up to 7%. So that's a way for your money to just keep constantly very quietly in the background, just like passive income, being able to earn back on top of it. But then the other part with the digital wallets is your ability to launch NFTs into markets as well. So that's something we're working on right now. We have a couple of artists that we're bringing through in the beta of that, and they'll soon be starting to launch NFTs out of their digital wallet as well. And again, it's just simply about how do you provide some basic level of financial infrastructure that opens up new distribution opportunities, but then more new financial opportunities for creators as well.
Okay, so I'm very early in my understanding of NFTs. I've been having a lot of conversations. Literally just had one a couple hours ago. So with they would be able to launch NFTs on. Is Paperchain going to have a marketplace, or is it going to connect to a marketplace that already exists?
It can be either, right? That's the whole point of interoperability. One way is all of these, if you think about it, all of the, you got to separate the infrastructure from the application, right? And this infrastructure where all these marketplaces exist, that's there. It's just simply a matter of someone coming along and saying, I'm going to create an interface for you to interact with all of this. And that's where we come in. So we're just leveraging existing markets, existing infrastructure, but just providing a user-friendly UI that allows an artist to easily navigate that and be able to say, well, I want to launch this, and then they can bring their art, they can bring their fans and audiences into that. Or on top of that, you also get the added bonus of being able to leverage existing investors that are already active in those markets as well. So it'll just be a very simple platform that allows you to come up. You can create your art and put that out onto a market. You can attract your own audiences to that because you'll have a page where your art can all sit and people can come and buy it. Or there's already the opportunity to plug that into existing markets that already exist, so bring over investors that are already active in other markets.
Got you. I saw a few people come in and ask what Paperchain is. Obviously, you came in a little late, but Paperchain essentially allows you to get paid almost immediately for your streams, whereas now when your song is streamed on Spotify, you're probably waiting 2, 3+ months in order to actually see that revenue. So they built a model. They can kind of estimate those payments and put those funds in your account almost immediately, so that you can reinvest in your career or pay your rent, whatever. So I think the last time that you were here, I'm not sure if it was it live yet? Were there people actively using Paperchain at the time? And no. how many people are using it now? And how could you, because it says when you go on there, you can't just sign up yet. There's still kind of a waiting list process. How many artists are using it now, and how can you sign up to get access?
Well, let's see. The way we work is we work at the distribution layer right now. So if you're an artist and you want to use it, you have to, your label has to be using it, or your distribution company has to be using it. And that's just that's an unfortunate limitation of the way the music industry is currently set up, because even as an artist, you can't go to Spotify and distribute directly yourself. And so we have to work within those parameters as well, because as an artist, you can't actually go and give us any of your data. You can't just say, I want to API log in, single sign on, log me into my Spotify account, give me access to all of my, my detailed streaming data from every day and my historical royalty statements from Spotify, because as an artist, you don't have access to that. So that's a problem, I think. So we have to just go to the distributors or the labels and be able to work with them and be able to offer it to their customers like that way. So if you're an artist with a label, if you're an artist with a label, or you're an artist with an artist management and you're running your own label and have your own direct deals, and that's perfect. We can work with you because we can get the bulk API access. But if not, you have to get your distributor on board. So to your point about the sign-up process as an artist, we always ask, as part of that, there's always a follow-up on like, who's your distributor? Because, you know, we're not connected directly yet, but we want to get that happening. Something that's sort of come over in the past couple of months is we started to put deals in place with distributors. So rather than working purely with labels, we've now started working with distributors, and they'll soon be rolling that out with to artists that are available using those distribution services, which is really exciting. Unfortunately, can't share the names yet while we finalize sort of the onboarding of that process. But once we launch, can share which distributors are connected to Paperchain.
And I'm still, well, it seems, well, I guess I can't say that. I can't say anything about BeatStars. I don't know if BeatStars is having I don't know if I'm privy to, actually, we'll just leave that alone. I'm hoping to get Foundation on board. You know, I know you guys have had a conversation in the past. I work with a boutique. We call it boutique, but we distribute a lot of music. And then once it is connected, and an artist has the ability to tap into their revenue early, what is the fees on that? Like, what is, you know, obviously it probably won't be a free service. What type of fee is associated with being able to do this?
Currently, you know, the way we're operating is it's like 1% a month. So to keep that, you know, we want to keep it as cheap as possible. How I would like to see it structured is, I think we can price it in a way where it becomes incorporated in the distributor's distribution fee. So as an end artist, I don't think you should pay anything. I'd rather see the distributor absorb that into their cost of doing business. And as an artist, you're now getting access to money that you should have always had access to. That's how I would like to see it priced. But if it doesn't work out that way and you do have to pay for it, like, that's where we're starting out, is 1% a month of the amount that you're doing. And that enables you to get access to, you have your funds going into a wallet, that enables you to access them instantly through the card, but then also enables you to, like I said, you can earn interest on that. That's sitting, many funds that are sitting in that wallet as well. So it just becomes for you a better mechanism for getting paid into and better way to access it.
And the card, it's like a Visa debit card?
Yeah, MasterCard debit card that you can use for online purchases. So it's not a credit card because it's not funded. We're not saying like, here's money that you haven't earned yet that you can spend. Otherwise, there's a different cost to that. But here's like, you know, here's a way for you to connect that instantly to the money that you're generating. You can now spend that, whatever you need to spend that on. Really, it's the freedom is there with you as an artist. So whether you want to reinvest that back into advertising or Google ads, or whether you're just out and you're touring and you always have things you need to spend money on while you're touring, or even just setting up and paying for studio time. Part of what we're building out now is the rewards of what that looks like, and working with different vendors. So whether it's from anywhere from like marketing or advertising agencies and services to streetwear clothes and things like that, to Airbnb and others, like anything that's part of like your day-to-day as an artist, being able to reward you for making the spend and the investment that you were doing anyway. Got you.
Cool. Well, I definitely want to open it up for questions, because I'm sure you guys have some questions about this. Is there any, so if your distributor's not a partner yet, is there anything artists can do to not necessarily put pressure, but have you seen any pressure from the artist bubble up to the distribution companies like, hey, we need this? Or do you think artists would simply just jump ship to a distribution company that?
No, I think I've seen people post on Twitter saying like, "Hey, United Masters, we need a Paperchain connection. You need a Paperchain connection," kind of thing, which is fine, right? Because they're in the business of offering better services, and that's the way I think it should be. And I think that helps in the terms of like this being something that artists are asking for. A lot of times at distribution or even at labels, they don't always, maybe not always in tune with, or unless artists are asking for something, then their approach is kind of a bit, well, the artists aren't asking for it, so it's not something we're going to think about. So it definitely helps as an artist, because at the end of the day, like, artists are the original entrepreneurs, the original like risk takers in how they dedicate themselves to their practice and to their craft and releasing their art and things like that. And ultimately, I think none of these companies, the labels, the distributors, even the streaming platform, none of them would exist without the artists themselves. So I think you have a lot of power, especially collectively. There's a lot of power, and I think there's a lot of value in being able to say, this is something that's going to make an impact or change the way I can do my business, and I want you to give me access to this.
Gotcha. So there's a question. So Impulse, I don't think he can answer this question, but let's see. DistroKid, he can't answer whether or not DistroKid is involved. Are there any plans for a native or mobile application?
Yes. So part of it's now online, an online application, but yes, a mobile application, because again, like, the way the entire story of technology and financial technology and even music technology over the past 15, 20 years is about immediacy, right? And it's about immediacy of information and then immediacy of access. And so, we started out like, how do we solve this problem of immediacy of access, which is getting you paid faster? But on the other side of it is like that information that comes with it. How much is actually sitting in there that I can actually spend? How much did I earn yesterday? How much have I earned in the past like 30 days? How much is available for me to spend? Oh, if I want to put this into this, almost like the savings wallet, and then it starts to earn interest, like how much am I earning back on that? The best delivery for that is an app, because that's just the habits we have. I know I wake up every morning and I check Robinhood and I check Gemini, because I want to see what my money's doing. And it's the same with artists, right? It's like you want to check up as soon as you wake up, the first thing you want to check is how your money's doing.
Right. Let's see. Clockwise Music says, does Paperchain pay in cryptocurrency?
No. You get paid in USD for now, or whatever your local currency is.
Got it. So will you also have the ability to split payments? Like if an artist is using this to get access to their money early, but they also need to split payments amongst, collaborators, producers, maybe a manager, what have you, like, is that factor in at all? Does it have the ability to do that? Or how would that work? Yeah.
So typically, say for example, like with DistroKid, you have your song, and within that you have the rights holders who are entitled to that. We can get, like, in those instances, like we can get, if you're just like one party who's a rights holder, or like to something in, say, DistroKid, you would be getting access to the data of that, but then just dealing with your fractional portion of that. And then on that side, if there is an asset that is earning revenue, and then you're controlling the splits and the payouts to all those rights holders as well, yes, if there's other parties that want to be signed up and be able to utilize this, then yes, they can access that as well. And we can do fractionalized ownership, or incorporate fractionalized ownership and fractionalized payments.
Got you. Now I know you can't say specifically who you're talking to, but I would imagine some of them are the known ones, like known distributors. And yes, for the person that asked before, your distributor would be like TuneCore or DistroKid or CD Baby or whoever you use to upload your music and get it onto Spotify, Apple.
Yeah, exactly. So we're talking, it would be companies like that, like Foundation, like Create Music Group, and others.
Got you. Cool. No, I think this is awesome. It seems like, you would think if somebody wasn't in the music industry, you would think, this solution would have been proposed or found like a long time ago. And I think sometimes, the music industry, even though it's cool and, there's smart people in it, we're not very advanced as an industry.
I think it's like different like backgrounds and different focuses, right? Like if anyone at a music company is someone who loves music and starts with loving the art, but they're not necessarily technology people, and they're not necessarily finance people. And I think even the companies that have tried to say, well, we're a music company, but we're also we're making investments and doing financial technology too, I don't think they're doing it very well. And so again, it's just about what your core competency is. And if you think about it, things like and this is true even at the largest organization. If you look at, say, Apple, they use, a firm to do buy now, pay later to make it possible for people to, make it easier to do payment installments for, to buy their laptops. Peloton use it for people to buy their Peloton machines. These are all companies that are big enough to build and offer that and build that product and service themselves, but they just know that that's not their core competency and that's not what their focus is. Their focus is on building consumer products. So you use a financial technology company to do that part of the business. And that's sort of the distinction we see ourselves here, is that, yes, a lot of distribution companies would love to be able to do this themselves, but I think part of the problem that's come about in the music industry is this idea of owning everything and locking it down just means you're building all these walled gardens, when the story of technology is about interoperability and the easeability of being able to take data and plug it in here and being able to access service here, and all of these different apps connecting to create, the service that is best designed to service creators and artists.
Right. All right, got another question. With the gap in knowledge between music and tech when it comes to our user capability, is Paperchain designing a user-friendly platform that will be easy for artists to understand and use?
Yes. So I don't have any like wireframes on hand that I can show you, but if to your point about the app, again, it's just you're waking up and just seeing a number, and that number is how much you made yesterday, or how much is in your wallet to spend. That's it. As far as like you thinking about that, it's just like you just want to know how much money you made and then how much you can spend, and then that's it. You don't need to interact with any of the technology on the back end. It's just about having information and then being able to access the money associated with what you're making, and then that's the point. If you want to, there's these other services that are available where you can deploy certain things that can open up new opportunities. You can launch NFTs, and yes, there's still a learning curve there, but you don't have to do that. At the very most basic point, it's just about you waking up and seeing a number in your phone that says, this is how much money I have. Great. Now I have a card. I don't even have to think about it. I can just now start purchasing with it.
Nice. Okay. So obviously you have enough on your plate in developing these partnerships and getting Paperchain integrated into the distribution platforms. But going forward, next year, next 2 years, what do you see as kind of like the future or the next challenges to tackle for Paperchain?
I think initially it'll just be about scale, right? So if you think about like some of the distribution partners we're onboarding now, it's like, working through the phase of working with the first 30 or the first 100 artists on those platforms, and then getting it to a point where how does this work for 5,000 or 10,000, 20,000? So that's kind of like the challenge, right? It's like we don't need to integrate with too many distributors. Like I'd say off the top of my head, maybe 10 or 12, if that. And that kind of, you're talking hundreds of thousands or even millions in some cases of artists that would then have access to it. So for us, the challenge is how do we scale to be able to service millions in a short period of time? And on the other side of it, I think not less a challenge, but more how we think about the opportunity is really, I think, the way digital wallets are operating now and the ability to move funds at a very low cost around the world. How does that get embedded more natively into the product? That's sort of like where we're thinking about like the opportunity really is like, it just makes a better money experience for artists, but then for us as well, it just makes the app and makes the whole experience move a lot more smoother, I think, and it's a much more smoother money experience. How do we incorporate that back into the app and rebuild a couple of infrastructure pieces? I think that's the opportunity as we see it.
And as you start these initial integrations, like what have been some of the maybe roadblocks or things that you didn't anticipate, or any challenges come up that weren't seen ahead of time?
I think it's largely been it's largely human based, and I think it's just about people having either the wrong or a different idea on what we're doing and then seeing it as a threat. And I think there's a lot of companies that see anything that's trying to do any sort of innovation around money in the music industry is seen as a threat by a number of incumbents, whether they're distributors or labels or even platforms. And whether that's a potentially, am I losing my customer? Am I losing my artist if they're receiving their funds from someone else kind of thing? I think that's been like the biggest roadblock. And in some cases, I think I told this story last time, but especially early on, it was kind of like, we talk about, well, we're going to take this data and then we're going to price streaming and show artists how much their streams are worth every day because they don't have access to that. And some distributors would be like, well, I don't want to show them that information because, then they're going to want to get access to it. It's like, yes, that's the whole point, is that it's their money and they should be able to know what it's worth and they should be able to get access to it. So, that's probably been the biggest roadblock, is just that this is something new that seems like it could be threatening to us. So we're just going to like lock it down for now and not really look at it. But I think over the past like couple of years, it's just those conversations now, they're becoming unavoidable, where they have to start addressing this, because if they don't, they just lose, they lose artists, and then they become irrelevant, because this is the way the industry is heading.
Yeah, I mean, some people are going to lose jobs. I think this is just how every industry evolves, and people have to keep up, and that's just the way it is.
Our approach has always been, and what we try to instill, is that you have to be prepared to disintermediate or disrupt yourself. And so the smart distributors are always thinking about how, like, there's going to be a point where we become irrelevant. What is that area we're going to become irrelevant on? And then how do we get ahead of that and make ourselves and keep ourselves relevant? I think that's any smart business is about that. It's constantly trying to find ways to disrupt themselves to offer a better product, but then ensure that they become a viable company in the long term.
Yeah, and what you said earlier, just about keeping the focus on the creators and creating the most value for the creators, I think is going to keep you in a good position.
So to that point, and I don't know how much time you booked for this, by the way, but thinking about that, right, is sometimes like a distributor's been like, well, I mean, why, we could probably just go and build this and offer it ourselves. And even on the investment side too, people are like, well, why wouldn't Spotify go and build this themselves? Which is like, to my point about Apple and Peloton using Affirm for buy now, pay later, but also thinking about what's going to be a better product for artists, right? Is it, I'm with CD Baby now, and I have this card, but then, my next release, or if you're an artist management team or running your own label, it's like, well, this one we're on CD Baby and we have our card with CD Baby. But now all of a sudden, I'm with United Masters, and now I have a card and wallet with United Masters, and I'm on this other platform. That's not a good product, I think, for creators. And I think the story and the trajectory of what tech looks like is it's creator-centric wallet. So it becomes to a point where it's not tied to your distributor, but it's just tied to you as a user. And then there's already all these existing connections. So I want to do one release on this platform. I want to do another release on this platform. What it really gets down to is like fractionalizing rights ownership and IP and everything that sits underneath that. And so you can almost build your own markets around that. So you have publishing, but someone for this particular song, someone is bidding and buying the publishing for this song, and someone is bidding and buying the recording, and someone's buying the merch component of that. But for this next song, it's a completely different asset, and there's different investors that are bidding on that. I think that's what it all gets to. And I think that is the best product for the creator, right? Is that's the sort of freedom that we're trying to push for, is that it's no longer tied to your distributor, but it's tied to you as a creator, and you can take that and plug that into any service or market that you want to get access to.
Gotcha. And I didn't realize that. So as long as the distributor is using Paperchain, like whether I distributed my one project from TuneCore, one from DistroKid, theoretically, if they were both using Paperchain, I could just look in my Paperchain wallet, all the money will flow there.
Yeah, exactly. Yes. Yeah.
Now, do I log in to Paperchain to see the data and the stuff that supports it, or would I still log in separately to see all of my?
We would have to figure that out. I think our focus right now is just on the money. So if in that case, like if we're aggregating, we're just showing you money. That's what you want to look at. If you want to dive into the deep dive on your trends and stats, I think that's something we could build out. Do we want to? Maybe, but for now, it's like it's enough work just to get the money component. So it's really just, here's this place for you to think of it as like it's your wallet, it's your financial hub. If you want to deep dive on the marketing side and look at specific stream data and marketing territories and things like that, for now it's like, yes, you'll use your distribution company to do that, and we're just there for you to go and look at numbers, specific dollar numbers.
Got it. Cool. No, I think this is great. That's why I wanted to have you on a second time, for the folks that didn't know what Paperchain was working on. Hopefully it gets integrated in all of your distributors soon. Daniel, I'm going to circle back with JJ and have that conversation with Foundation. Hopefully we can push that forward. and push the conversation forward with Abe and BeatStars and their distribution platform as well. I think this is crucial. But
yeah, cool. I think so too. And we spent the last couple of years building it out, and like I said, there's people are starting to wake up, and it's starting to happen now, and it's a pretty exciting time. And I think for again, for any artists that are really looking at what's happening at the frontier, check out Zora, check out Foundation, not the distributor Foundation, but an NFT distribution platform called Foundation as well. And just look at what people are doing and creating around that. Mike Shinoda's starting to release NFTs. Carl Cox is doing it now. And it's just a really, really fascinating time for what the future of media distribution looks like, and media ownership, more importantly, and fan engagement and fan ownership too. So start to get your head around that, and start to explore and see what's out there, because this stuff is going to really take off for the next couple of months.
Yeah, no, we had our last MEC session last Monday was about NFTs.
Nice.
And there's a clubhouse room going 24/7 about NFTs. I would just encourage people to jump into Clubhouse if you have access. Just listen. Just listen. The more I hear certain terms, and it starts to click over time. But it can be very overwhelming if somebody tries to explain everything at once. So just be a part of the conversations and ask questions. Daniel, thank you very much for joining us again. I'll definitely be in touch. Everyone else, I'm having one more text marketing session at 1:30 today. After that, I'm going to turn my Monday 1:30 sessions into an artist management roundtable, a weekly artist management roundtable. But today is still going to be about text marketing. Join us. The link is in our Instagram, in our Instagram page. Click our link tree, sign up, talking text marketing. Dan, thanks again, man. I'll be in touch.
I appreciate it. Talk soon.
All right.
Thanks.